The house belongs to a man named Jan. He is 78. A stroke took most of him a year and a half ago, the kind that leaves nothing behind but breath and the slow opening and closing of eyes. He cannot move, cannot speak, cannot swallow without help. The agency calls it long-term palliative, which means you keep someone comfortable while their body lingers, taking its time to leave. The first night, I heard footsteps moving around upstairs, and I assumed it was the daughter, Elin. Her father's house, her childhood room tucked beneath the eaves. The daycare nurse had mentioned she sometimes came up from the city and stayed over. So when the floor creaked above me, slow footsteps, the hush of running water, the restless sounds of someone awake, I thought nothing of it. I pictured Elin, up late, keeping vigil near her father. I even felt for her, leaving a cup of tea on the stair in case she wandered down. The tea was cold on the step in the morning, untouched. And when the daycare nurse arrived at 7, I mentioned the daughter had been up in the night, and she frowned and said Elin was at home, 3 hours south. No car in the drive, no coat on the hook. The bed upstairs was made and cold. I tried to explain the sounds I'd heard, but she interrupted me and looked at me the way you'd look at a child who'd said something sweet and wrong. "There's no one up there, love." And then, a beat later, not unkindly, but watching me now, "Take care of yourself. Nights get to people." So I convinced myself it was only an animal, something nesting in the loft, maybe a bird that had tumbled down the chimney into the hollow rooms, a creature with its own secret wanderings. Old houses always shelter tenants you never meet. Then, one night, it started to run. Not a scurry, but a full, pounding run. The length of the upstairs hall, corner to corner, too fast and too heavy, turning sharply and racing back, again and again, as if it never needed to breathe. The chandelier above me swung wildly, as if the whole house had been set adrift. And then, just as suddenly, it fell silent. I sat in the chair by his bed, staring at the ceiling, realizing I had exhausted every ordinary explanation. There was nothing reasonable left to cling to. I filed nothing official to the district nurse, but I'd said it out loud, which I probably shouldn't have, and this is a small enough world. You become the crazy night nurse who heard things, and the next placement doesn't call, and the one after that either. You don't quit a good post 3 weeks in over a noise, not if you want to keep working. So I tried avoiding the room, but that only made things worse. One night, I took my notes to the kitchen, desperate for distance while it thundered overhead, and then it descended. Not into the kitchen, but into the hall just outside. The running was on my floor now, racing past the door, turning, passing again. I pressed myself against the cupboards, knees drawn up, hardly daring to breathe until it finally stopped. On the nights I stayed in his room, close beside him, it kept to the floor above, as if it understood. The nights I kept my distance, it came looking for me. After a bad night, I had to act as nothing had happened. The care never changed, and it definitely did not bother him, who had slept through the whole thing, unconscious. No matter what the nights delivered, the mornings stayed the same. At 6:30, I would prepare him for the daycare, washing his face with a sponge, warm water circling his eyes and the soft folds of his neck. I cleaned his hands, one and then the other, threading gently between his fingers. I combed the little hair he had left, moistened his mouth. Every motion was slow, every touch gentle. the way you would want for your own father because there was no one else. And none of this was his fault, no matter what else haunted that house. And the whole time, his eyes. They started opening for it sometime in the 3rd week. Not tracking. The doctors insist a body like his cannot track, and I want to believe them, but open, fixed on me. Wherever I moved, his eyes followed, glassy and unblinking, while I wiped his face and told him it was a fine morning, that the weather might turn. Try washing a man's hands while he stares and never blinks. Try doing it every morning, gently, kindly, after a night spent listening to something race through the house. That is the horror no one warns you about. Not the noises in the dark, but the dawn rituals, performed with care, for something that only ever watches. I saw it once. Only once, and not clearly. And I have spent a long time convincing myself of what it must have been. It was a night I'd gone to the kitchen, one of the early ones, before I'd learned to stay close to him. I stood at the sink, filling the kettle, the window above the taps swallowed by darkness outside, and something made me look up, past my own reflection, into the garden. There was something on the outside of the house. High up, off to the left, where the wall meets the eave and there is no ledge, a shape clung to the pebble dash, pale as pajamas, low and folded, gripping the wall like a spider, its head twisted down and around toward the glass, toward me. It held there for a moment, wrong in every joint, and then vanished upward and out of sight, as fast as the running I had heard. I did not go to check his room. I told myself there was no point, that he could not have moved, that he was where he always was. But the truth is, I could not make my legs carry me down that hall to find out. I stayed in the kitchen until daylight. In the morning, he was in his bed, on his back, blanket to his chest, exactly as I had left him. Once you've seen it, you know it can go wherever it wants. A locked door is nothing to it, and distance means even less. But I stayed. I washed his face. I told nobody. After that, I started closing his curtain the moment I arrived, at 10, before the glass could turn completely black. I never liked the bay window. His bed faces it, and all night it becomes a sheet of darkness, the room reflected across it, every object in his room suspended in the black a second time, reversed. One night, I went to draw the curtain and looked the way you are not supposed to look, and the room in the glass was empty. The bed in the reflection was stripped and flat, no shape beneath the blanket, no one in it. The whole room suspended in the black exactly as it was, except for the one thing it lacked. And something about the angle was wrong, tilted, as if the reflected room belonged to a world just slightly askew from my own. I turned around. He was there. Of course he was there. On his back, blanket to his chest, eyes shut, the machine ticking its slow tick, everything as it had been all night. I looked back at the glass, and the glass agreed with me now. There he was in it too, reflected, still, the room and its double matching the way a room and its double are meant to. I drew the curtain. After that, I avoided the window whenever I could. But I understood something I could never say aloud. The glass and the room did not always agree, and when they disagreed, I no longer knew which one to believe. Last night was the worst yet. It ran from midnight without stopping. Upstairs, then the hall, then the room next door, which was new, the wall pressed against his room, so close I could have laid my hand on the plaster and felt it pass. I stayed in the chair by his bed all night, knees hugged to my chest, eyes closed, ears covered, close to him the way I had learned, and it had always kept its distance. But it did not stay away this time. Near 5, it went quiet, all at once, mid-stride, the way it does. I sat in that silence a long time, longer than ever before, because the quiet is when I check the bed, and I did not want to check the bed. I checked it. He was there, still, blanket to his chest, exactly as he has been every morning of my life in that house. It was nearly over. It was nearly light. I had survived another night, and the first thing I do every morning after surviving is open that curtain and let the day in, because after a night in the dark with him, I crave the sun the moment it arrives. So I crossed to the bay, and I took the curtain back. It was not light yet, not quite. The garden was still only gray shapes, and the glass, with darkness behind it, offered me the room instead. The whole room floating in the black, layered over the garden, every detail reflected sharp and clear. And in the glass, behind me, in the bed I had just turned away from, I watched the blanket slide down from his chest. I watched him sit up with a strange, unnatural motion. Slow, bones cracking. I watched him lower his feet to the floor, his head twisted toward me, eyes fixed and unblinking. The shock hit me so hard my legs nearly gave out. I have not turned around. I am frozen. In the glass, he is not standing. He is on all fours, in his pale pajamas, and he has begun to cross the room toward me, slow, the way something moves toward what it has already claimed. The light is not up yet. The glass is still black. He is right behind me.